says people still need to wear a mask, social distance, and wash their hands for quite a while. Also new this afternoon, President-elect Joe Biden has picked Pete Buttigieg to be his transportation secretary. If he's confirmed by the Senate, Buttigieg would be the first LGBTQ cabinet secretary. The role of transportation secretary is expected to play a pretty big role as Biden hopes to bring both sides together to work on a huge infrastructure package. New today, a big decision for Columbia County parents as some choose to switch their kids from virtual to back into the classroom. Celeste Springer explains why kids may get a new teacher.
Since the school year started, Columbia County has been letting students switch from learning here at home and back into schools. But all of that flexibility doesn't come without some consequences. As the second 9 weeks of school draws to a close, many students are choosing to move back to in-person learning. It's forcing Columbia County to do a massive teacher and student shuffle. It's something they've had to do every 9 weeks since school started. Both in-person and learn-from-home students can be impacted, and most are elementary schoolers. I spoke to one parent who tells me 3 of her kids have gotten new teachers every 9 weeks. But it's something the district says is unfortunately necessary.
Sometimes I have to take a learn-from-home teacher and put them in a traditional model, and we have to redistribute the students in the traditional model so that the classes are not overloaded, and I don't have a class of 5 students with a class of 25 students sitting right next door to it.
And coming up at 6 o'clock, we'll hear from the district about what they're doing to make things a little easier on staff and families. And they'll also tell us why this last part of the school year might be a little bit calmer. Celeste Springer on your side.
There were protests in Texas over standardized tests today. These teachers near Houston say this is not the year to take those because of safety concerns. The school district says it will follow the state's decision to move forward with testing. They say the test will help them in the future, but a lot of teachers still have concerns.
Our campuses are not safe, clearly. And my question is, whose spouse, mother, father, or child is going to have to die for these lawmakers to change?
If we can't guarantee our students a safe environment to test and can't rely on the results we get from testing, we should cancel the tests.
Today, a Texas judge sent a letter to the governor requesting teachers be considered frontline workers. The judge wrote their risk of exposure to COVID should get them bumped up to the first round of vaccines. Teachers protesting all across the country as well in what's being called a day without teachers. Teachers from places like Atlanta, New York City, and Minnesota took part. The group Teachers for Good Trouble argued testing should not happen this school year.
I know that there are some people who are like, why do you guys have to have the sick out? They think we're trying to abdicate our responsibility of educating, that we're trying to abandon kids, and that is exactly the opposite.
Organizers say they plan to press the issue with the incoming Biden administration. The organization's petition on change.org has collected more than 23,000 signatures so far. Taking a peek outside on Wheeler Road. As the nation passes 300,000 coronavirus deaths, there is new hope. Today, the FDA confirmed the effectiveness and safety of a second coronavirus vaccine, this one from Moderna. The ruling comes on the second day of the coast-to-coast rollout of the Pfizer vaccine. Danya Bacchus shows us how states across the country are handling it.
From New Jersey to San Francisco, it's a scene playing out in hospitals across the country. For a second day, frontline healthcare workers are receiving Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine.
Anyone out there who is having any reservations about taking the vaccine, please, it's a safe and, from the data we have available, effective way of protecting everybody.
141 sites received shipments Monday, and the government plans to deliver 2.9 million doses to 636 locations this week. U.S. officials want to vaccinate 50 million people by February. Today, an FDA panel declared the Moderna vaccine safe and effective. It's expected to jump 2 more hurdles before distribution as soon as next week. The FDA also approved the first over-the-counter at-home rapid coronavirus test, which provides test results in as little as 20 minutes. The test will be available early next year.
With hospitalizations soaring, health officials here in California are hailing the vaccine's arrival. On Monday, the state shattered a single-day record with 42,000 new coronavirus cases.
And there is light at the end of the tunnel, but we're still in the tunnel. And that means we're going through perhaps the most intense and urgent moment since the beginning of this pandemic.
We wanted to take a moment to urge everyone in our region to do your part.
Today, a group of bipartisan governors from the Midwest pleaded with people to double down on wearing masks, social distancing, and hand washing. Health experts caution coronavirus cases will continue to spike through the holiday season. Danya Backus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Health officials say they are especially worried about that spike in cases going into the holidays. And more details on how that COVID-19 test you'll be able to buy at the drugstore works. This is the COVID-19 test. Just got emergency authorization from the FDA, and it's an antigen test, which means it looks for small pieces of the virus in your nose. Costs $30. You'll get the results in about 20 minutes straight to your smartphone. So pretty neat development there. History in the making, people will soon be able to see the vial used from the first dose of the Pfizer vaccine given in the UK. It will be on display at a London museum. 90-year-old Margaret Keenan received the first COVID-19 vaccine in the world just a week ago. That historic vial and syringe will join a collection at the Science Museum early next year. A day after the Electoral College affirmed a Biden-Harris victory, Senate Leader Mitch McConnell, said he hoped the two could forge a successful working relationship. AAA is projecting a nearly 30% drop in holiday travel this year. They expect about 34 million fewer of us to travel from December 23rd to January 3rd compared to last year. AAA predicts nearly 3 million Americans will fly over the holidays. That's down almost 60%. About 81 million people will drive. That's around 25% fewer than last year. Still no decision on how many fans will be allowed to attend next year's Super Bowl. The NFL commissioner says they'll make that decision down the road. They want to talk with league officials and health officials. He says they want as many fans in the stands at Raymond James Stadium down in Tampa as possible, as long as it's done safely. Players and coaches will not receive priority treatment as that vaccine is rolled out across the country. The Super Bowl is currently scheduled for February 7th. 62 years of marriage, and they still don't get tired of doing things together, and this is quite a milestone. This couple in a town in East London became the town's first residents to get the COVID vaccine today. The couple, 84 and 90 years old, got the vaccine just days after their 62nd anniversary. That is a heck of a present. They said they felt privileged to get it, despite one of them being afraid of needles.
I think it went all right. There were no pains and nothing like that. Well, I didn't want it done, but it's all right. Yeah.
Last week, the most vulnerable people in the UK began being vaccinated in hospitals there. 2020 has been something, but something we can all still do together is watch the ball drop. This year, the New York City ball drop is going virtual, which doesn't change a lot for those of us who watch it from home, but the big difference is the performance from Jennifer Lopez will be to an empty audience. She will headline Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve performance in Times Square right before the ball drops. So at least a little bit of normalcy for those of at home getting to see that on TV. A dog gets lost in thick sea foam. The family works fast to find him before it's too late. We'll show you this crazy rescue caught on camera.
And we do have a cold rain in store starting tonight and lasting throughout the day Wednesday. Much more on those rain totals and when we finally clear out coming up.
Content of this ad.
A rescue caught on camera. A 66-year-old man and his dog fell through the ice in Utah this morning, and as police were helping save the man, an officer fell in too. He managed to pull himself back up after fire rescue crews got to the scene. The man was taken to the hospital. The officer was not hurt, so everyone was fine, but pretty dramatic video and probably not what anyone bargained for when they decided to go ice fishing. A huge foamy mess drawing visitors from all over, but as Ian Lee shows us, you got to be careful out there.
It's a moment of panic as a family frantically searches for their dog in a thick sea of foam. But fear quickly turns to pure joy as Hazel bounces above the brown bubbles and is scooped up. Rough weather with wild winds has whipped up the suds across Australia's northeastern coast over the past few days, luring kids
It's very fun.
and those who are kids at heart.
I've never seen anything like this before.
Scientists say the unusual sight is nothing to make waves about.
When we, stir soap up in a basin of water, it foams up, and that's exactly what happens when these degrading organisms get stirred up by the wind and the waves, and we get sea foam.
Creating the perfect conditions for a foam party. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Oh man, I bet for a minute that dog was like, where am I? But he seemed to be having a pretty good time. Okay, Riley, we are starting to cool down. We've seen a little rain out there, too.
Yes.
A battle between Michael Jackson's estate and HBO over the documentary of how the late singer last year made waves. We'll tell you who's expected to pay big bucks.
Gold Mac and News 1226 want to see your lighted holiday pics. Share a photo of your Christmas light. You might see them on TV one of these weeknights. Wrdw.com is the place to go, so send us your pics and make our site glow.
The estate of late singer Michael Jackson wins its battle over the 2019 HBO documentary Leaving Neverland. The film accused Jackson of sexually abusing two young boys. Jackson's estate sued HBO for $100 million, arguing the documentary violates a clause in a contract from 1992. The contract was for a film about one of Jackson's concert tours. HBO could either appeal that or make its argument before a judge. Lawyers for the former girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein are urging a judge to free her as she awaits her trial. They're asking a judge to do that under a $28.5 million bail package that would include armed guards to ensure Ghislaine Maxwell remains safe and doesn't flee a New York City residence. A judge could rule on this latest bail request in New York by the end of the year. A previous request for bail was back when she was arrested in July. That was denied. Christmas is next week. Can you believe it? Hanukkah already here, and despite the craziness of 2020, a lot of traditions still remain. One of those, the rush to ship those Christmas gifts in time for them to make it under the tree. Today is the deadline for USPS, FedEx, and UPS ground shipping. For USPS first class service for mail and packages, you need to get it in by Friday. Monday is the deadline for FedEx Express Saver and 3-day freight, as well as UPS 3-day select. So do it now or pay more money.
Thank you.
The owners of a house in Mississippi left those treats out for their delivery drivers, and that delivery driver was pumped, spreading a little good cheer, excited to have a treat. But we do appreciate all those delivery drivers out there this time of year. You can add Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to your list of high-profile podcasters. It's a partnership with Spotify. It includes a lot of different programs, some hosted and others produced by the couple. A holiday special hosted by the couple will be released later this month, so excited to hear that. Some good news today. A mom and her two young daughters who were rescued from a fire earlier this month reunited with their heroes. Alicia and her children are feeling good and rebuilding their lives after they were trapped in their third-floor apartment earlier this month. Today, the firefighters were thrilled to see them happy and healthy. They gave the family gifts and a check for $1,000, all from the Firefighters Union and neighborhood churches.
Feel for these people every time we go to one of these incidents. It's a great feeling to come out here and give back a little bit.
Thank you for the firefighters that who saved my family.
And no better Christmas gift, I'm sure, for those firefighters to hear than that thank you from this family up in Boston. But Alicia and her family are now staying with her mom.
Well, tomorrow we have a very high...
Wishing you lots of love this holiday season. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
With COVID cases on the rise nationwide, Starbucks is making some changes to help cut down on the number of people in stores. So for now, no more buy one, get one drink deals. But Starbucks says it will offer more double star days for loyalty program members. Taking a look outside over Aiken, we've had a few in the last couple of hours there today. We're some of the first in the state. Brady Trapnell is live for us at the Charlie Norwood VA with the plan for the rest of those doses.
The VA officials told me they debated if they were actually going to vaccinate anyone today, but eventually this afternoon they decided to open up that historic box of vaccines.
A historic shipment for a historic moment in our community.
It felt good. Pressures were high, tensions were high, but I'm glad I could help the people out there.
Gabriel Solovai said he came into work expecting a normal day. Instead, he delivered a box of hope.
I'm in history. I feel good. So I didn't know this was coming though.
The Charlie Norwood VA didn't know when it was coming either, but as any vaccine during a pandemic, it came at the perfect time.
Our first priority will be healthcare personnel because they're essential to taking care of our veterans.
Crystal Cha is the VA's vaccine coordinator. She says today her staff is doing final preparations for their vaccine clinic.
It's taken a lot of departments coming together to put this clinic together.
The Charlie Norwood VA
VA will vaccinate healthcare staff first, and then residents in their long-term care facilities. They're storing their vaccinations in this negative 70-degree freezer. Meanwhile, AU and University Hospital say they're still waiting on word from the Department of Public Health for when they'll receive doses. Here at the VA, the vaccine is not required for anyone, but they expect their staff to line up.
We're ready to, start and go once it gets here.
It's here, and it's a spark of hope as cases continue to rise. VA officials say they'll continue vaccinating healthcare personnel starting tomorrow morning, and they're requiring anyone who gets vaccinated to go ahead and book their second appointment before they even leave.
Good reminder, it is a 2-dose vaccine, but we're glad to see that early rollout include the VA right here in Augusta. Brady, thanks so much. The vaccine also arrived in Chatham County in the Savannah area. That's where the first COVID-19 vaccines were administered in Georgia today. 4 healthcare workers were the very first ones to get it. Governor Kemp was there to watch it happen. He says doses are heading to more than 30 Georgia hospitals. Still no exact time for when the rest of our hospitals will get the vaccine.
But as the COVID vaccine is distributed around the world, there is a lot of skepticism and doubt health officials will have to battle. A lot of that stems from people questioning what's in the vaccine and how quickly it was developed.
The speed of all this is a concern for people, and this vaccine will be different than any other before it. Will Rio explains and goes through how vaccines are made.
As our local hospitals wait for vaccines to come, many people wonder what's in it and how does it work. And here's the simple answer.
If you can eat a hamburger or a Chick-fil-A, you can get a vaccine. That's basically all it is.
This vaccine is unique and only has 4 simple components.
So number 1 is the messenger RNA, right? Number 2 is the lipid that basically engulfs or surrounds the RNA to protect it. Number 3 is a little teeny bit of sucrose or sugar, and then a couple of electrolytes, potassium and sodium. That's it.
None of the live virus will go inside you, but that messenger RNA that Dr. Vasquez mentioned comes from the actual virus. It's a big component. That RNA is wrapped in a protein to protect it. From there, it will go into our cells and recreate a part of the actual virus.
These memory cells will then hang around, and that's what we're looking at with the vaccine. The memory cells will hang around for months just in case we actually get the COVID virus.
It will be the first vaccine without the live virus, but becomes part of our immune system to fight it.
So this vaccine is not FDA approved. This vaccine is FDA EUA or authorized, right? Emergency use authorization. And we still will have to continue to look at the long-term side effects. But there's never been any side effects with any RNA vaccines that have been looked at. As I said, RNA vaccines have been looked at for over a decade, so we have not seen any side effects from this type of vaccine at all.
Dr. Vasquez says the vaccine was finished in early March.
That the studies were being done in phase 1 and in phase 2 side by side. And then once phase 1 was done, phase 2 and phase 3 were done side by side.
Dr. Vasquez says that we could see herd immunity by September of 2021, which means 70% of the population having COVID or the vaccine. In Augusta, Will Rio, on your side.
And doctors say even if and when you get the COVID vaccine, they still want you to wear a mask and social distance until we at least reach herd immunity levels. There's always a chance you could still pass on the virus.
The vaccine arrives as cases are still rising in the 2 states. 4,800 new cases in the Peach State today. Georgia has seen at least 4,000 new cases, 5 in the last 6 days. In South Carolina, 2,300 new cases. The good news is that's 4 straight days of fewer daily cases than the day before. But the Palmetto State has seen at least 2,000 new cases in 9 out of the last 10 days.
And our local hospitals are hoping for help from the vaccine sooner rather than later. They're seeing some of the most COVID patients they've had since the pandemic began. You can see where they all stand now compared to where they were 2 weeks ago on December 1st. University has close to 100 patients, and Doctors Hospital doubling their COVID patient load.
To weather now as we give you a live look at Augusta.
Take a look at the numbers. Almost 1,900 ballots cast today, 2,000 cast yesterday. That's a 35% increase compared to the first 2 days of early voting for the general election.
Happening right now, school leaders in Richmond County having their weekly board meeting. They're expected to talk about COVID in schools now that several have moved to full remote learning, including 2 more added to that list today. We'll let you know if they make any big decisions in tonight's meeting.
And here are those schools in Richmond County that are only learning from home right now. That makes 9 schools total, including A.R. Johnson and Hornsby Elementary, which will start remote learning tomorrow. Garrett Elementary reopens Thursday, and Bel Air K-8 reopens Friday. All the rest don't go back to in-person classes until after winter break. Schools in Columbia County having to make adjustments too. We're learning some elementary school kids may have new teachers when they come back from winter break.
And that's because they have more kids changing from remote learning to in-person learning for next semester. Celeste Springer tells us how this will impact students and their teachers.
With so much excitement around the holidays and getting a break, some families in Columbia County will have to adjust when school starts again. Some students are getting new teachers, and it's not the first time for some of them either. I spoke to the district about the Great Teacher Shuffle and what they're doing to alleviate stress when students return.
It's going to be a smooth transition, I have no doubt about that.
Some students might see a new face when they log on or are greeted at the door. It's a side effect of allowing students to change learning models.
Sometimes I have to take a learn from home teacher and put them in a traditional model, and we have to redistribute the students in the traditional model so that the classes are not overloaded.
Most of the students impacted are elementary schoolers. The district says nearly 2,000 elementary school children have switched to in-person learning since August.
It's not just that. We have new kids coming in throughout the year. Our numbers, we continue to grow.
81 new elementary school students have enrolled after the school year began, but they say they've got the process down to make things easier for new and existing students.
We have streamlined how they communicate with parents. We've streamlined the actual learning platform itself so that you're not learning one way with one teacher and another way with another teacher. We are accustomed to meeting kids right where they are, no matter what the situation is.
Columbia County tells me they will not be accommodating any more learning model changes after the third 9 weeks of school begins. But what that means is if your teacher is changing over the break, they will stay your teacher until the end of the school year. They hope it will make things more calm for students as they wrap up. Celeste Springer on your side.
And there's even more changes coming for staff and students in Columbia County. On Thursday, the district will be talking about the search for a new superintendent to replace Dr. Sandra Caraway after her retirement this spring. Taking a look at the cases in Columbia County schools right now, 74 students are positive, which is less than 0.3% of all their students. 34 school employees are positive right now, which is less than 1% of their staff. In Richmond County, 119 students are positive right now, which is less than 1% of face-to-face students. They have 1,500 students in quarantine, more than 12% of in-person students. As for employees, 42 are positive right now, a little over 1% of their staff.
Also this evening, a man is shot, stabbed, and kidnapped. He even jumped out of the bed of a moving truck. Now, one of the men accused of putting him through all that has been arrested. Damon Yona McMath, now behind bars. Deputies say last Sunday they responded to Riverwatch Parkway where they found the victim shot, stabbed, covered in blood. He told deputies he was tied with duct tape and wire and put in the bed of a truck. He says 2 men were in the truck and were taking him to a bridge to dump him over into the river. The victim was able to free himself and jump out of the truck. He then fought off a knife attack and was shot twice. The victim still recovering in a hospital. McMath faces 5 charges, including kidnapping and aggravated assault. We could see a wave of evictions in January because the federal ban on evictions ends December 31st.
After that, landlords around the country are free to file to evict any tenant behind on their rent. Cindy Heiberger tells us courts and nonprofits here in Richmond County are getting ready for a surge in evictions.
Come January 4th, it'll be time for thousands of renters to pay up. But for many people out of work, a hold on evictions was their only saving grace.
We receive calls daily. It is a huge need that exists within our community.
The moratorium was not a waiver, meaning people still owe all the back rent they haven't paid. But Lasima Turman with Augusta's Housing Department says with bills piling up and little money coming in, that could be a huge problem for people in Richmond County.
Our department, as well as other organizations, are working hard to try to leverage resources to be able to provide assistance.
Resources like Georgia Legal Services, which offers free legal help to people who qualify. Colleen Barkley is an evictions attorney with Georgia Legal.
Due to the fact that we have COVID restrictions and due to the fact that we will have a lot of landlords filing dispossessory actions, the court system will be backed up, so people will have to be patient.
As the courts become inundated with eviction papers, cases may get backed
anticipate that you are owing back rent or that you may be out, it is a good idea to start looking for new places.
Resources like the CSRA Economic Opportunity Authority, United Way, and even local churches all can offer resources or rent assistance for those struggling to make ends meet.
The earlier you call us, the better the result can be and the better we can navigate the issue.
Sydney Heiberger on your side.
Georgia Legal advises if you do get an eviction notice, make sure you respond within 7 days to get a court date. Otherwise, the case will likely default to the landlord. We do have a list of resources on our website for people who may need rent assistance or referrals. If you don't have health insurance for next year, today is the last day you can sign up for that coverage under the federal government through the Affordable Care Act. You can head over to healthcare.gov or call the number right there on the screen. The deadline is midnight tonight. And a study found that more than 15 million people can get coverage at no cost or a reduced price. Politics now. Senator Ted Cruz stopping in the river region this week. He will a big donation for the Georgia Cancer Center today. $126,000 donated by a group called Paceline. Usually they hold an annual bike ride to raise money for the Cancer Center, and they decided to cancel that this year and have a virtual race instead. And they still managed to raise more than $100,000. Money researchers say goes right back into fighting cancer and helping their patients.
This grant is very important for us. It also encouraged my lab to collaborate with a clinician so we can work together to develop technology.
Paceline hopes to have their bike race in person next year. They say they have a place for everyone with routes for all skill levels, so keep them in mind.
A live look for you tonight out of the Aiken County Fairgrounds, where Holidice makes its return in Aiken County. And 2020, obviously a very different year. They are trying to keep this socially distant. You have to call and make a time to show up. They'll be open 7 days a week until mid-January, except on Christmas Day. Those skate rentals are $15, but they are trying to keep it as safe as they can. So bring a mask, if you will, and enjoy the slippery floor. Outside, it is starting to feel